Hello, options traders, and welcome back. This is Steve Gans from OptionStrat, and we're going to get into the third of our three-part educational series on the main tabs of OptionStrat. As you recall, you've probably already been through the Build tab, the Optimize tab, and now we're going to get into the Flow tab. So as you probably already recognize, the Build tab and the Optimize tab are geared toward allowing traders to build out certain types of option strategies and then seeing how those strategies morph over time as volatility changes and as the price of the underlying changes. So that's what those two are all about, is being able to model out trades and play out a whole lot of what ifs. Now the Flow tab is a little bit of a different animal. The Flow tab is basically where OptionStrat is using some algorithms to go through hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of trades, and sorting through those trades to pick out the ones that are being made by large institutions and or what we might call, quote unquote, the smart money. In other words, what are the big hedge funds doing? What types of trades are they making? So an OptionStrat not only has the ability to look at the individual options legs that are being traded, but it also has the smarts, if you will, to be able to put together a lot of those legs into different styles of trade so they can see when a large institution might be doing a spread of some type. So we're going to go into Flow. Now, Flow is an additional fee. Everyone will get some basic Flow information. Even if you haven't paid for the Flow feed, you'll have about 10% of what would normally be in there. And that date is going to be delayed unless you have the Flow add-on to OptionStrat. But let me show you why it's such a great add-on. So when we get into Flow here, we're going to look, there's Flow Summary. We've got Live Flow, Historical Flow, News Flow, Congressional Flow, and Insider Flow. So we're going to walk through each one of those and take a closer look at them. So let's start off with Flow Summary. Flow Summary is basically looking at the overall market. And again, we're looking for these large institutional type trades that might have gone off out there. And we're trying to determine with those big institutions, what's looking bullish, what's looking bearish. So this is kind of a summary of today's action. It's currently January 30th, 2024, and the market just closed. So this is a full day's worth of activity that I'm going to be looking at now. And if I look at something here like KWeb, and I have no idea what KWeb is, but I look at this and I can see, looks like there were 34 transactions that qualified as large type transactions that were going to be institutional transactions. It also must be very bullish in nature because it's at the top of the list with the biggest bar. And there was 6.11 million in trades done on that. You see there's higher numbers of trades done, but this one is showing up more bullish than many of these others, hence the bar. So let's take a look at that. If we click into this, we can see here, oh, this is interesting. You know what? I'm gonna actually write this down. This is something that I want to explore. I don't know anything about this company, but what's interesting here is obviously we got the time that these trades are going off, the symbol, the strategy. In this case, the strategy is largely just buy a 32 call. The expiration date, that's what's kind of intriguing to me. Look at this. The expiration date is a year from now. And almost all of these are a year from now. So somebody has a long-term bullish picture on whatever this is. And it's an idea generator, and I'm going to use this as an idea to go do some more research on it. I should say that all of these, we never want to blindly follow these. This is all just to take a look, see what others are doing, and then take a look at their thesis and see if we might agree with that thesis. And we can see the amount of premium that was put into these trades. That's $715 million a few minutes before the close today. And see that little AA behind there? That was above the ask. So in other words, somebody went in and said, you know, I really, really want this. If they're asking, $1 for it, I'll pay $1.10. I just want to get all I can get my hands on, okay? Then we also see the type of trade over here. So the types of trades generally fall into these categories of block, sweep, and split. The sweep trade is when someone's going out and they're trying to buy a whole bunch of 32 calls, and they don't care what exchange that goes through. So they're going to put orders out there in all the exchanges, and they're going to try to buy up all the calls they can, the 32 calls. And they might start off paying $1 for them, and then once they wipe out all the inventory to $1, they're going to move it up to $1.02, $1.03, $1.04, $1.05. So these trades are going to take place over a wide range of exchanges and a wide range of prices. Now, a split is very similar, except it's all on the same exchange. They're only going to one exchange here. But again, there's likely going to be a wide range of prices in that order. But OptionStrat is able to go back and determine that all of these buys, in this case, were taking place from the same company. It's one organization that's getting aggressive out there trying to buy all that up. Then finally, we have what are block trades. You can see these are big numbers here. This one up here as well. So what a block trade is, it's a trade that kind of goes off behind the scenes. In this case, those options never actually hit the exchange. They never actually hit the market. This is what happens when you see in many times in movies about Wall Street. You see, one broker calling up another broker, or one hedge fund manager calling up another saying, hey, I've got, $715,000 worth of January 1725 calls at 32 strike. Do you have an interest in those? Yeah, I'll take them. Or no, I won't, or whatever the case might be. So that deal gets struck behind the scenes, but it still has to be reported. So that's what a block trade is that type of pre-negotiated deal, if you will. So let's come back to summary a second, just kind of go down through these. And I see there's a lot of activity here on this one, $105 million worth. But again, when we looked at KWeb, we can see that was showing up very bullish. Just for comparison purposes, let's come down, look at this one, and we can see it's showing bullish, but it's not showing very bullish, okay? And that's because there's a lot of red in here as well as green. And I need to point out that, you've got red, you've got green, and then you've got a dark green and a dark red. And that kind of helps to show how bullish or bearish each one of these trades was. So we can scroll down through these and get a sense as to where they landed in that bullish-bearish phase. And so how do you determine what's bullish, what's bearish? Because for every trade, there's a buyer and there's a seller. So how is it that OptionStrat will mark a trade as bullish or bearish? Well, let's just take one for example. Let's just look at this spread. See, this is what I was telling you about earlier too, where OptionStrat can, they call it concatenate these trades, where they can put these trades together and determine that this one was a spread. It wasn't a single option. And one of the ways that we can determine bullish or bearish is we can see this little AA. So they went above the ask, in this case, to buy that spread. They had a bullish spread. They wanted to go above the ask to get into that. So what that means is, let's just say that this spread might have started off maybe at $1. Before long, they buy out all the inventory to $1. Then it goes up to $1.02, $1.05, etc. The buyer is chasing that. So that's a bullish sign. And so that's how these kind of get categorized, bullish, bearish, etc. Now, there was a trade down here that I wanted to take a little closer look at that happened first thing this morning. If a trader was watching this near the open and looking to generate some ideas, they could have looked at something like this 5-10 put to open here, okay? And now the reason I selected this, it's literally right on the open this morning. It's also a short-term strike or short-term expiration. So this expires in 2 days. So somebody has an opinion about this underlying, and they think their opinion is going to play out in a very short amount of time. So if I want to see more about that trade, I can simply click on it. I get all the information here. It shows this is a long put in SMCI, which is Super Microcomputer. Here's some news that's out on it. This was a buy of the 510 puts. They bought 200 of them. They spent $160,000 to do that. They bought them at $8, and they're worth $12.75 now. So they're up nicely in this trade. At the time they bought this, the stock, the underlying, was trading at $5.36. It's currently trading at $5.12. This trade had a bearish sentiment, and this trade is currently up 59%. And we can also see through this diagram here what happened in this trade throughout the day. So for example, we can see right here, okay, so the alert came out at 6:31, right down here. Within a couple minutes, they were up 131% in this trade. Now that's not normal, I wouldn't think, unless somebody maybe knew something. But that's what this is all about. We're looking at the big money that's jumping in and out here and trying to see what it is they're doing, how they're doing it, and should we consider this ourselves. So this spells out everything about this particular trade, what the risk is, all that sort of stuff. If I wanted to model out this trade, I can simply click the Open in Visualizer, and it will take us to the P&L diagrams and the table that we've already looked at extensively in the Build and Optimize areas. So that pretty much summarizes the live flow area. Now, I should also point out that I can filter and set up alerts for almost anything over here. So I can come and this is all SMCI, but maybe I just want to look at the flow of all trades. Right now, we're getting a lot of ES and ZN and ZB, which are bonds, and S&P, because we're after hours. I am in California. We're seeing trades going off at 146, 155. Our market here closed at 1 o'clock, so it's the futures that trade pretty much around the clock. And of course, some of the ETFs trade after hours too. But I can sit here and I can see, again, everything that's coming through in real time. I can filter this down. Maybe I only want to see SPY trades. Okay, so I can filter it just to SPY trades or Google or whatever I might want to do. I can build out different filters. I can look specifically for things that are very bearish, just bearish, neutral, bullish, very bullish. I can look at just ETFs if I want. I can look at just small caps, large caps, etc. So I can build out whatever I want as a filter. When I build a filter, I can also add a color to my filter so that anything that shows up over here, I can assign that color to. So when it comes through, it will have a color associated with it. And to see an example of what that looks like, I can come in here to some pre-built filters that already come in the system. This filter is designed to help show when somebody might know something. I don't want to call it inside information, but somebody's done some research that indicates to them that they might want to make a certain move. So again, that's one of the canned ones that's already built in here, as are the YOLOs. And some highly unusual trades that went through, possibly with, very high dollar amounts associated with them or a lot of open interest, etc. So I can come in on any of these and I can edit them in any way I want. And again, as you saw, highlight them however I'd like to see them highlighted as well. And that's kind of what we're seeing right here, things like this, that are highlighted in the highly unusual category with that color. Now, after we've gotten through live flow, we can look at historical flow. Historical flow, we can essentially do the same type of thing. We can come in here, filter down to just specific symbols, and we can go back and look at any trades that happen in those symbols at a specific point in time. That may help us in studying like moves around earnings and things like that. I can go back and say, hey, last time that Microsoft had earnings was these dates. What happened to the options flow in Microsoft going into that earnings? Or something along those lines. Again, we can just basically filter down to specific dates. News flow shouldn't come as any big surprise as to what this is all about. This is just all of the news as it's flowing through on all these different symbols. Again, I can come in, slice and dice this to just specific things. So maybe I only want Tesla news. I can save that filter. I can set an alert. Anytime any news comes through on Tesla, bing me, I want to know about it. Congressional flow. So there's a school of thought out there, and there is proven stats that our government officials historically tend to be very good investors. So it's good to know what our Congress people are doing. I can come in and I can see specifically what any congressperson is doing, what they're buying, what they're selling. I can see here that this Mark Wayne Mullen has been doing a lot of buying of different things. And if I want to see more about any of these, if I want to see more details, I can come in, click, it will show me who he is, Republican out of Oklahoma, the amount of money that he spent, he purchased these, and it will show me the date the trade took place, as well as the date it was reported. Now, something to keep in mind here, particularly with congressional trades and insider trades that we're going to cover in just a minute, these are not required by law to be reported for 45 days. So that's why it's important to see this timeline here and understand how this, when this trade actually took place. If we want to see the actual government disclosure from their office, we can click on that and even see that actual paperwork. But the key here is that we can get a good handle on the types of buying and or selling that our government officials are doing. And we can filter that specifically by a particular congressman. Let's just look at whatever Lindsey Graham has done. Okay, there we go. We can see these are the buys and sells that Lindsey Graham has done. So again, we can come in and filter that any way that we want. Or maybe there's a particular congressperson that you like to follow, that you say, hey, every time Mark Wayne Mullen buys or sells something, I want to be alerted, let me know. Again, you can create a filter specifically for that. So that is congressional flow. Insider flow. So insider flow is when individuals inside their own company are buying and or selling shares. We can look specifically here at Schwab. So this is Charles Schwab sold shares, $1 million worth of shares in Schwab. Now, if I want to know more details on that, I can click on that. Again, I've got all of the details here. He took in $1.5 million in premium. That's the quantity that he sold, the price. It took place on the 24th. It was reported on the 27th, and here we are today. Now, there are lots of reasons that somebody might sell their company stock. Maybe they want to diversify into something else. Maybe they're selling it to start a new company. Maybe they're building a new house. Maybe they're going through a divorce. So we can't just take the sale of stock and say, ooh, Charles Schwab is selling his own stock. That's a bearish sign. It could be a bearish sign, but it also could just be one of those many other reasons. Now, if you look at buys, same thing. We can see that these C-suite executives at Oracle are buying. Or here we've got Sarah Kogan is buying a bunch of different companies. Now, I'm guessing these are all probably different companies that she's involved in. We can come in and look at each one of these buys and, again, see all those specific details. So these can be buys in many cases where a person is actually buying the stock, which I would say is bullish in nature, Or we also see there's something called acquire. Now, acquire doesn't necessarily mean that they bought them. You see, there's no price here that they paid. So in this particular case, they were granted to the person or awarded to the person, likely as part of their performance package. So maybe the company had a good year, quarter, whatever, and part of these people's compensation was receiving shares or options in the company. It could also be something like, hey, when they take the company public, maybe each one of the C-suite executives get a certain number of shares, options, etc. So there is a difference between acquiring and buying. And I would say that, buying is probably a little bit more bullish. If you've got somebody that is buying their own company stock, to me that says something. But at the end of the day, this is a way for me to come in and specifically look and see what all of these individuals are doing with their own company stock. So with that, I think we have covered the flow tab. I thank everyone so much for going through this series of 3 videos. Hopefully you found them to be very informative and that it should greatly enhance your options trading abilities and your research. So thanks so much, everyone. Take care.